What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review. Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode 23, Hold Her Accountable. So we are starting off where we left off last week, which is when Melody had pulled up on Kiki and her husband, Amin, while they were at the storage place because they are moving. And Melody pulls out that damn drug test and she tells Kiki, to shut up the naysayers, to prove Marceau and Letitia wrong. Girl, go ahead and take this drug test. So Kiki goes into the bathroom. She had no problem with taking the damn test. She did want Marceau to take a lie detector test. She did say, well, if I have to take a drug test, then Marceau has to take a lie detector test. But we all know that's not going to happen because Marceau doesn't feel like he has to prove himself to anybody. Everybody else has to prove themselves to him. He don't got to prove himself to anybody. So Kiki goes ahead and takes the drug test. It comes back negative. It tested her for like a multitude of different substances and it was all negative. But it doesn't even matter if it was negative. It doesn't even matter because Marceau and Letitia are not going to believe that the test was done correctly, that the test wasn't rigged in some way. They're going to think that, there were some shenanigans going on with the test. It really wasn't her urine that she used. They're going to come up with something. So it really doesn't matter what the test said. So moving on from there, they start talking about why they're actually moving, and they're moving because they want to better their son's chances of getting an athletic scholarship for certain colleges. I guess kids probably in a certain high school or in a certain district, they have really high chances of getting these scholarships. So they're moving within that district. That's what I'm assuming they were talking about. And so Melody had said that Tiffany's going around saying that Tiffany's trying to paint Kiki and her husband in a very negative light as far as putting their son in this school to get a scholarship. Tiffany really didn't believe that they were going to move, or maybe they're going to lie about I don't know what Tiffany was saying. I don't even know. Tiffany, what do Kiki and her husband and her children, them moving while they're moving, what does that have to do with you? Are you passing out the scholarship, Tiffany? What does that have to do with you, Tiffany? Not a damn thing. Now, it's funny to me how Tiffany came up in this episode quite a bit, but we didn't see hide or tell of her. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to understand, what is the purpose of having her on this show? We hardly see her. Lewis is constantly traveling for his job because now he's a coach. What is the purpose of them being on this show? What the things that she says are a topic of conversation, but we barely see her or her husband. What's the point? So I really was not interested in what Tiffany had to say about Kiki and Amin and their son and the scholarship and where they're moving. That I had no interest in that at all because it's got nothing to do with Tiffany. Moving on from there, we have Tisha and Marceau. So they are at home and they are packing up because they're about to go on a 5-day vacation. Now, what I thought was interesting about this scene was as Letitia is packing, Marceau asked her, how long is this vacation going to be? And she said 5 days. And Marceau was like, 5 whole days? 5 whole days? Now, I don't understand how you can plan a trip. And this is just calling out on how fake this scene is. I don't understand how you can plan a trip, book a hotel, book the tickets, do all this stuff, and then you had no idea that the trip was going to be 5 days. Tisha did not relay this to her husband at all. He had no idea that it was going to be 5 days. So as she's packing, meaning that they're about to leave any day now, that's when he finds out he's going to be gone for 5 days. I'm just calling out the scene for being very, very contrived. So Tisha says that she is done with Kiki because, she says Kiki has proven herself to be a liar, so I am through with her. Marceau says that him and Stormy turned a new leaf because when he said whatever he said about did she know anybody that was on drugs at the barbecue, and, Stormy said, yes, my friend. And then Marceau said some more things about that made Stormy cry. And then Marceau had to go comfort her. So the act of him comforting her, I guess that was them calling a truce to their beef. So Marcel says that, him and Stormy have turned a new leaf. They're doing better now, whatever, who cares? It's going to be extremely short-lived. And plus, you're not good with Stormy's husband. Now, Marcel says that the whole thing about Kiki, he's not even mad at Kiki. He says that he's just really hurt about Kiki, or hurt by Kiki, because, they think that she's back on drugs, that she's not doing good. And so he's just really hurt that, she can't get her life back together. Tisha says that Kiki always says that Letitia presents herself as Little Miss Perfect. And Letitia tells her husband, I've never presented myself that my life is perfect. No, girl, you don't present your life as being perfect, but you like to infer or hint or allude that your marriage is perfect, that you have the perfect husband and you have the perfect marriage, and everybody else, is struggling and suffering with their marriages, but you and Marcel, y'all got it like that. So she goes, I've never presented myself as having the perfect life. So Marcel decides to call her out on not being accountable enough. See, this is the stuff that Marcel does that I don't understand. Your wife is talking about how her cousin is bad talking her. And then instead of you're right, you never did that, I don't know why she's saying that about you, he wants to twist that knife even further into her and say, well, you don't even hold yourself accountable. Why do you want to criticize your wife at this particular moment? But he does. So he says, well, you don't ever hold yourself accountable. And she goes, well, give me an example within the past 30 days of when I haven't held myself accountable. And his example is at the town hall meeting when they were allowing people to critique their Black Expo event. He said that when Melody called you out for not being organized, you got really defensive. And she said what she said, well, I didn't say that the whole thing was organized. I said that there was no need to pick apart everything that led up to the event. The whole point of the town hall meeting was to talk about what happened at the actual event, now the stuff that led up to it. So the stuff that led up to it could have been disorganized, but the event itself, whatever she was saying. So she was trying to defend herself, and Marcel was like, no, you were defensive, you didn't hold yourself accountable. What kind of a husband is this? Your wife is already, feeling down in the dumps about her and her cousin's relationship falling apart yet again. And here you are making it worse by pointing out her faults. I didn't understand this at all. It was just, but she loves it. This is what, I guess, in her eyes, this is what makes a good man. Moving on from there, Melody. Melody's at home with her mom. Her mom comes over and she is opening she's planning her name changing ceremony. She's going to have a name changing party to celebrate the fact that her name is going back to her maiden name, legally going back to her maiden name. So her mother comes over, she opens up the letter or the order from the court that officially changes her name back to Rogers. So she says she's going to have security there in case, Martell decides to pop up and act a damn fool like he did at her other event, her video releasing event. And so this really symbolizes her getting back her identity. It symbolizes her moving on from Martell. This was that last thing that she needed to get done to completely sever any kind of attachment to Martell. Moving on from there, we have Stormy. So Stormy goes over to Kiki's house. Kiki at first apologizes for grabbing the playing cards from Stormy's hands at the cookout. So she apologizes for that. And Kiki says that what triggered her was Letitia ignoring her. When she showed up at the party, Letitia did not greet her, walked right past her as Kiki tried to greet her. When they were sitting at the table, Letitia refused to acknowledge her. So that's what really triggered her and made her act the way she did and throw that drink at her. So Kiki calls Marceau. She called Marceau Tisha's wife. I don't know what she was saying, but she was like, and Tisha's wife, Marceau. And then Kiki said that she's really frustrated that Letitia will not acknowledge all of these rumors that are swirling about her husband's infidelity. And so she's like, it is so obvious that this man is cheating on her because, when the pictures surfaced online of, of that big broad back with the Yoda ears sticking out of the head, that was Marceau for sure, but she didn't want to acknowledge that. All of these rumors going around about Marceau doing this, Marceau doing that. She doesn't want to acknowledge that him going to Africa all by himself, that was also kind of suspicious there. Tisha doesn't want to, talk. So she was just like really frustrated. She was saying, all these things that are going on, and she just refuses to address them or acknowledge them or see the fact that her husband could possibly be cheating on her. So they talk about Tiffany and her interview with Carlos King. And so on this interview, Tiffany talked about Kiki and basically just kind of like downgraded Kiki, or degraded Kiki, kind of talking like, she kind of presented herself as being somebody who was way up here and Kiki's down here, like she's better than Kiki. And of course, Kiki didn't appreciate that. And then they talked about how Tiffany was also talking crap about Stormy's product. Now, Stormy had gifted her product. She gave her a gift basket of all of her stuff that she sells. And Kiki tells Stormy, yeah, after you gave her that gift basket, she was going around telling people that you use dangerous ingredients in your product. She was bad talking your product. Once again, all these things that Tiffany is saying that are a topic of conversation, but we don't see her. There's no cameras there when these things were said. So why is she here again? Like, why does she have to be like written in, but doesn't have to show up? So she's getting this check without even having to appear on camera like everybody else has to. So they talk about that. And so Stormy says that, she's going to see if Tiffany has the guts to say any of this stuff to her face. And, if that does happen, Stormy is going to regulate. And then Tiffany will think twice about ever saying anything negative about Stormy's products. Moving on from there, we have Melody. So Melody invited Tisha and Kimmy to go work out. So at first Tisha shows up. And when Tisha showed up, Melody noticed that her mood was kind of off, which it was. Letitia looked stressed. So she kind of noticed it. And then when Kimmy showed up, Kimmy also noticed that Tisha really wasn't quite, herself. So they go inside and they do the little workout. And then after that, they talk about Kiki and Letitia and their relationship. And Tisha says that, she's going to distance herself from Kiki. She says that, their relationship is very toxic. It was like this before, they came back together again. So now she's learned her lesson and she's going to stay the hell away from her cousin. So then Mel asked, well, what could have led up to your cousin acting like this at Kimmy's barbecue? Like, was it the conversation that y'all had prior to the barbecue? And she was referring to Kiki trying to let Letitia know that there's this rumor going around that Marceau hooked up with this particular young lady. It caused this young lady and her boyfriend to break up. And so Melody was like, did that have something to do with that? Is that what led to this, huge situation at the cookout? And Letitia was like, I'm not going to talk about the barbecue. I'm not going to talk about the barbecue. She didn't want to talk about it. Melody tried to bring it up again. And at that point, Letitia was done. She was like, okay, you know what? I'm over it. I'm just ready to go on vacation with my family. I'm out of here. And so she left. And like I said, Letitia, if the rumors aren't true, why are you bothered? Why are you bothered? If you yourself think that people are just hating on you, they're jealous of you, they have it out for you for some reason, then stand your ground and speak your truth. And because if you don't speak your truth, other people are going to speak it for you. You're not going to like it. So I'm like, why couldn't she just stay and say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Or yes, my cousin tried to tell me something about some chick, sleeping with my husband. But you know how it is. Everybody's got lie on your husband, or I don't believe the rumors, or Marceau would never do that to me, or where are the receipts, something. But you constantly running away and avoiding the topic of your husband is just going to draw more attention to it. It's not just going to go away because you don't feel like talking about it. Moving on from there. So Martell, he goes to see Nell Fletcher. And they talk about Melody and her name changing party. Martell said that he's heard about this, and so Nell says, well, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be attending her party. And she also talks about how hard it is to be friends with both him and Melody, because when you do something for one, the other one thinks it's a betrayal. So it's really difficult to navigate this friendship with both Melody and Martell. So Martell was like, hey, anybody who goes to this name changing ceremony is not a friend of mine. And so I'm thinking to myself, why do you take it so personally if your friends want to attend Melody's name changing party? Like, why? What does that have to do with you? That's got nothing to do with you. She's not changing your name. She's changing her own name. So why are you bothered about who's going to attend her party, and then swearing off these people who attend and saying, well, you're not going to be my friend if you go to her name changing party? Her changing her name has got nothing to do with you, Martell. I mean, maybe this is what they call narcissistic. Maybe this is what they mean when they say that someone is very narcissistic. It's got nothing to do with you, Martell. Anywho, so Martell says it is a slap in his face that she wants to change her name back to Rogers, because he thinks that Melody became rich and famous off of the Holt name, that he did a lot of work into helping her build her career as Melody Holt. And so he kind of sees this as some type of a slap in the face that she wants to go back to her maiden name. And then Nell tells Martell, well, it's a slap in the face when you cheated on her. And so then Martell said, well, she cheated on me first. And so Nell was like, I don't know anything about that. And then Martell says, well, did you ever ask her? Now, who goes around asking their friends, you ever cheated on your husband? Did you cheat on your husband first? Like, who asks that? But anyways, in Martell's world, it's a very common question that pops up. So you ask everybody that question. So Nell was like, no, I've never asked Melody that. And so then he was like, so why do you always have to bring up my cheating when you don't even know what's been going on with Melody? And, she cheated on me first. He loves to talk about, Melody did it first. Melody did it first. Whatever. When you were caught cheating, when Martell's affairs were exposed, after they were on this show, his whole reasoning of why he did what he did was because Melody did not perform certain sex acts on him. That's what he had said. He says, yes, I went to go get it out there in the streets because I wasn't getting it at home. Now you're saying that you cheated because Melody cheated first. Well, why didn't you just say that to begin with if that was the truth? And he didn't start talking about Melody cheating first until after their divorce. Because when he was in the middle of all of the cheating rumors and the cheating accusations, and, his mistresses were popping up on the internet, telling their truth, he wasn't talking about Melody cheating first. He didn't start bringing that up until they were divorced. So, and even if Melody did cheat first, there's no way to prove it. She's not going to admit it. So why would Nell even ask her? Because it's not like Melody's going to say, girl, let me tell you what I did. No. It's not, she's not going to admit it if it's true. And Melody was smart enough, if it is true, if she did cheat on him, she was smart enough to not cheat while she was on a national television show. Whereas Martell continued to cheat after being on a national television show. After signing up to this reality TV show, he continued to cheat. So she was just smart enough to not get caught. So, and he keeps on, and then he tells Nell, well, go ask her if she cheated on me first. And if she lies and says she didn't, then I'm going to come back with my receipts. Nah, you come out with your receipts right now. The cameras are on. You wanted a scene. Let's do a scene. Show Nell the receipts right now. Why we got to wait until Melody denies it? No, she's been denying it. So why don't you show those receipts right now? So whenever he talks about, well, Melody cheated first, she cheated first, he just sounds like a big old baby. He sounds like a big old baby. And don't nobody care about that, because that's not what was caught on TV. Melody's whatever side pieces, if she did cheat, her side pieces ain't making whole entire YouTube videos about what they did with Melody, when, where, and how. Your side pieces are. So, like, why do you bring up something that you cannot prove? Nobody's going to believe it, and nobody cares because she was smart enough to not get caught. Anyways, that's my review. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.